around those deliverables. Perhaps they're facilitating some in-person sessions. So there are a number of different things that are happening that PDs are doing at this point in time. So let's make this a little bit more challenging, because that was fairly basic. Now, return back to that table conversation, and what are the most challenging things that are happening for PDs, given those things that you're mentioning are happening? So what are the pitfalls and the difficulties that PDs are facing during this early week period of time? So let's take 2 minutes in our table groups to just pull out the highest level challenges that we think PDs are facing at this point in time.
I've got a number one, that was mine.
We're done. Orientation and training during our kickoff, and so
That was very fun.
catch up and follow up for what they would have missed in this session.
They don't prioritize everything that's prioritized, everything needs to be done. New jobs, as soon as possible for
Summer
kids.
potential for a new city for the first time. So that PDs they're going through some of the same transitions that some of the full members are going through, and that's going to add layer of stress to them and just acclimating their new life in many capacities beyond just a new job.
Prioritization as everything that they envision for round zero starts to all concentrate on that.
I think a big area that your negative interaction, and they will have a negative interaction. I think at the beginning of rounds ago, they can really hurt, and they all the videos of doing that, and give feedback. And they're here to be helpful, so figuring out what are the areas that they can focus on. Hopefully that'll be more clear with second years coming in prior to that. But that's something that I'm thinking about. Strong pitfall.
All right, so if we can wrap up that last thought.
Figure out what is
I'm hearing two big trends emerge. And I want to just share the two big trends that I'm hearing from you all that you all are coming to very rapidly. And I think the first piece is just our program director's ability to address all of the deliverables that they're getting. And when I'm thinking about that first thing, their ability to address that, there are a bunch of different levels there. There's their knowledge and their skill of being able to address those tools, and then there's also just the sheer volume of those tools in combination with all of the other things that your groups were just talking about were happening during round zero. So that's one challenge that I'm hearing loudly and clearly, and I think is absolutely right on, that many of you are sharing. I think the other challenge, and very much connected to that, is therefore our ability to plan purposefully around what to do given what's happening with our core members. So what does this mean I do with my time? What does this mean I prioritize? How does this mean I adjust course? And so these two things are the things that I think we just need to be very thoughtful as program directors right now, because we're still operating with our program director shoes and hats on. What is it going to take for us to be able to be set up as best as possible to be able to do some of those things? And so in thinking about being purposeful with deliverables, I'm taking back in my own head to like my team last year, where we had a team of 7 program directors and 5 of them were new. And it was an incredibly challenging period of time. I was getting lots of tools in for my first years, for my second years. We didn't really stagger the dates where things were being due. So efficiency was a really big challenge for us. How much time do I spend on this? If it's almost at the good enough bar in these 3 tools, but not in this tool, what does this mean I need to do? And I don't think we had set up enough practice to get us into the habit of being efficient. So some PDs struggled with efficiency. I think another thing that I saw happen a lot was we just really relied on email and written communication as our vehicle for sharing how to move forward. So I get this thing in my inbox, and I actually did have the tendency as a PD to respond, but my response came in, here's my bulleted feedback, here's what looks good, here's what could be better. Maybe you'll respond, maybe I'll ask you a check for understanding question in my email, and maybe you'll respond to that, but I'm really relying on written feedback as the means by which I want to tell you as a PD what I think of your core member tools. And so I'm not necessarily giving the air of, this is great, and that's really hard to communicate in an email, I think it's equally challenging to communicate in an email. Here are the things that you need to do better, and I have no idea why you need to do these better and why it's been a struggle for you, since I'm communicating this to you via email and I'm not able to get all of your perspective simply from looking at these written documents. And so that was a challenge that we saw PDs facing. I also think we saw PDs having a challenging time identifying what do I prioritize. I'm seeing that you're struggling with your goal, you're struggling with your unit assessment, your unit plan, your unit tracker, all of these in combination. I want to help you fix all of those things, and I want to help you fix all of those things at the same time, and that makes me feel as a PD, I'm kind of in a frenzy, and therefore I'm sure it's going to make my core member feel like, oh my goodness, I'm that much more behind. And so I think what we want to make sure we're seeing happen is that PDs have the ability to prioritize and say, actually, we're going to fix this one tool first. It makes sense to start with our unit assessment because that will trickle down to the unit plan and the unit tracker and will maybe help us to get back to identifying what a stronger goal is. Or perhaps we would take a different approach, but we would need to be able to, as a PD, to make that judgment. I think another thing that I saw happen, and I think this is very natural, I think all of these things that I'm mentioning are very natural, is just that I have the good enough bar, I'm looking at this line, I'm looking at this line, I'm looking at this line, and everything in every plan, every assessment question, every little minute detail of your unit plan has to meet the good enough bar, and I'm being very iron-fisted with what the good enough bar means. And I'm doing this really because I want students to learn. I want to make sure that our students get the best instruction. I want to make sure that students are assessed in the best ways, but I'm losing sight of some of the essence and the purpose behind why the good enough bar exists. And so I think what we really want to make sure happens is that these pitfalls, which I think are normal pitfalls, I think they're pitfalls that our PDs, whether they're new PDs or returning PDs, are going to face, just given the sheer amount of work and also just the high stakes that we are putting into Round Zero. There is a lot that we want our core members and PDs to be able to accomplish at this time. But we're also not wanting to do things that are outside of the scope of what our PDs are capable of doing, and also outside of the scope of what is possible, because we do think there are lots of things that we have set up that could help our PDs to be better acclimated and better ready to assess this and address this. Yeah, looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, so I think one thing linking all of those is the challenge of sort of planning for a core member and a cohort of core members as whole people. And what we tend to do is say, okay, these are our effectiveness plans, these are our retention plans, these are our core strength or satisfaction plans. And in reality, if there's a core member who is feeling like they, are never going to be effective in their